The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wound through the cozy corners of Maslow Bistro, mingling with the faint sweetness of cinnamon from the pastries on display. At just 20, Iris Harris moved with quiet grace behind the counter. Her eyes held a blend of youthful dreams and unshakable determination that made anyone meeting her gaze pause for a moment. Her hands, delicate but confident, handled each cup and saucer with a care that made serving coffee feel almost sacred. "Good morning, Samuel," she said with a warm smile as the glass door swung open against the morning breeze. He stepped inside with the kind of effortless confidence that lit up the small cafe. Samuel Lawson had become the highlight of her mornings over the past 8 months. Tall, with striking green eyes and the easy elegance of a perfectly tailored suit, he had a way of looking at her that made her pulse quicken. She didn't know much about him, only that there was a world behind those eyes she longed to understand. "Good morning, beautiful." "The usual?" he asked, approaching the counter. When their fingers brushed as he took the cup, a spark seemed to leap between them. "Of course. Double espresso, no sugar," she replied smoothly, aware of the subtle intensity in his gaze. "You look different today," he teased, a playful note in his voice. "Something happened?" Samuel hesitated, glancing toward the bustling street outside. "Just work, you know how it is," he said, but the tight set of his jaw betrayed him. The truth was heavier. His fiancée, Sabrina Miller, had set the wedding date just 3 months away, and the weight of his family's expectations pressed down like an invisible chain. "You never tell me much about your job," Iris said with a soft laugh, leaning slightly over the counter. "Sometimes I think you're a mystery. And I like mysteries. I like you." The words slipped out before she could stop herself, catching him off guard. For a fleeting moment, Samuel forgot obligations, family pressure, and a future he hadn't chosen. In the warmth of that small cafe, with Iris's open smile, he felt free. Their secret meetings began that week. Samuel concocted late work appointments to steal afternoons with her in her small apartment. She cooked simple meals, and he praised them as though they were gourmet feasts. Together, they whispered dreams over the hum of the city outside. "Someday, I'm going to have my own restaurant," Iris murmured one evening, resting her head against his chest. "The best Mexican food in Seattle. You'll be my first customer." "I'll be there," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her hair, a lie even as it left his lips. In a few months, he would be married to someone else, bound by promises made long before he ever met Iris. 3 months passed in a haze of stolen moments. Iris gave herself entirely, believing every whispered promise, every gentle kiss, every "I love you" shared in the darkness of her apartment. Then came a Tuesday morning that changed everything. The nausea she had been ignoring for weeks suddenly made sense when the test revealed 2 pink lines. Her hands trembled as a smile spread across her face. "Oh, baby. They're baby." "Samuel, I need to tell you something important," she said over the phone, voice trembling with excitement. "I can't right now, Iris." "I'm busy," he replied, standing in front of a mirror as he adjusted his wedding tuxedo. "Please, it's urgent. It's about our future." "Our future," he repeated, unease creeping into his tone. "Fine. I'll come by later." That evening, Iris set the table with flickering candles and wore the deep blue dress he always said made her glow. When Samuel arrived, he kissed her, but his eyes held a distance she hadn't noticed before. "Samuel," she whispered, "we're going to have a baby." The silence that followed was suffocating. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair, pacing the small living room. "A baby? Iris, this can't be happening." "But it is. We didn't plan it, but we can make it work," she pleaded, reaching for him. He recoiled, voice sharp. "Don't you understand? I can't have a child with you." "You told me you loved me," she cried. "You promised me a future." His eyes closed, and the truth cut deep. "Because I'm getting married, Iris. In 2 weeks." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. "What did you just say?" "I'm Samuel Lawson, heir to Lawson Industries. I've been engaged to Sabrina Miller for 5 years. Our wedding is set." Her knees nearly gave out. "You're lying. This is cruel." He pulled a gold-embossed invitation from his pocket, placing it on the table. Her hands shook as she read the elegant script, the union of Samuel Lawson and Sabrina Miller. I'm sorry, he said softly. I never should have let this go so far. So that's all I was? A distraction? Your affair before marrying your princess. It wasn't like that. Of course it was, she screamed, tears streaming freely. You used me. You lied to me. My family, my company, everything depends on this marriage, he insisted. And what about our child? My child. His face hardened. That's your problem, Iris. You deal with it. You should have been more careful. He walked out, leaving her alone with shattered dreams and a life growing inside her. Collapsing onto the cold hardwood floor, Iris wrapped her arms around her stomach, whispering a vow to herself. She would never abandon her child, not as he had abandoned her. The weeks that followed were brutal. Nausea racked her body, sleepless nights blurred into days, and tears soaked her pillows. After fainting at work, she lost her job at the cafe. Pregnant, alone, and without income, the future felt impossibly bleak. Then the phone rang. Iris. It's Samuel. Her heart jolted at his voice, though it sounded distant and controlled. Samuel, she whispered, did you call to meet me? Tonight. It's about the baby, he interrupted, flat and detached. 8 o'clock. Central Market. Come alone. Hope flickered. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe love could overcome duty. That evening, she wore the same blue dress that had once made him smile so effortlessly. Central Market was quiet after dark, the usual hum of shoppers replaced by the soft echo of her footsteps. Lamplight painted long shadows across the cobblestone-like pavement. Samuel leaned against a sleek black car she'd never seen before, posture casual but controlled. But he wasn't alone. A tall, poised woman with icy blue eyes, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, and a designer outfit that could have cost more than Iris's rent for a year stood beside him, her gaze sharp with disdain. So this is her? The woman's voice dripped with contempt. The waitress who thought she could seduce my fiancé. It was Sabrina Miller. Iris felt her blood drain. The cold lamplight of Central Market did nothing to warm the icy chill settling in her chest. Samuel, what's going on? Who is she? Her voice trembled, barely audible over the distant hum of the city. The blonde stepped forward, heels clicking sharply against the pavement, sounding like a verdict. I'm Sabrina Miller. Soon to be Mrs. Lawson, she said, voice dripping with calculated contempt. And you, darling, are nothing more than an obstacle that needs to be removed before my wedding. Samuel, why did you even call her? Iris searched the man she had once loved, desperately seeking even the smallest flicker of warmth, regret, anything human. But Samuel's gaze stayed fixed on the ground, hands buried deep in his pockets, posture rigid. This isn't just some mistake, she said, voice rising, desperation cutting through the night. This is our child. A life. Sabrina laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed off the empty storefronts. Our child? Did you really think a Lawson would stoop to having a baby with someone like you? Samuel, say something, Iris pleaded, tears blurring her vision. Tell her you love me. When he finally looked at her, the eyes that met hers were colder than anything she could have imagined. I never loved you, Iris. You were nothing but a distraction, a pastime. The words cut through her like knives. That's not true. You said you loved me. You said. I said what you wanted to hear. Samuel pulled out his wallet and counted bills with cold precision. But this ends now. Sabrina's smirk widened, triumphant. My fiancé is being generous. That should cover your problem. Take care of it and disappear from our lives. My problem? Iris whispered, fists tightening. You mean my child. Your bastard, Sabrina spat, venom lacing every word. He will never be recognized as a Lawson. Samuel stepped closer, extending the money. Take this and do what needs to be done. End it. Never. Instinctively, Iris wrapped her arms protectively around her growing belly. I will never do that. Then you're more foolish than I thought. Samuel tossed the bills to the ground, letting them scatter at her feet. Take the money, Iris. More than you'll ever see in your life. I don't want your filthy money, she said, voice trembling with fury. Filthy? Sabrina laughed, sharp and mocking. That money is worth more than your entire miserable existence. Be grateful. Samuel stooped, gathered the bills slowly, then hurled them into her face. You're a gold digger. Always were. Did you really think a pregnancy could trap me? I loved you, she cried, tears streaming freely. I truly believed you loved me too. Love, Sabrina sneered, tilting her chin with disdain. A woman like you doesn't even know what that word means. You only know how to exploit men. Samuel stepped closer, voice stripped of every trace of warmth. Listen carefully, Iris. I will never acknowledge a child from a woman like you. Never. The words echoed in the empty night, a death sentence for the trust and innocence she had carried so fiercely. Something inside her shattered, not just love, but her faith in kindness, her sense of safety. End that pregnancy and disappear from my life, he ordered. If I ever see you again, if you ever cause me problems, you'll regret it. As he turned, Sabrina leaned down toward the trembling young woman, clutching the scattered bills. Here's some advice, woman to woman. Men like Samuel don't belong to women like you. Accept it. Move on. The couple climbed into their sleek black car and drove off, leaving Iris alone in the cold night, humiliated and heartbroken. The bills in her hands felt like poison. She sobbed for what felt like hours, the city indifferent around her, until a fire ignited inside, a fierce, unyielding resolve. She stared at the crumpled money and whispered, You'll pay for this, Samuel Lawson. Both of you. Every tear, every humiliation. And my child will grow up knowing they're worth more than all the dirty money your family could ever throw at me. Iris rose, sliding the bills into her purse, and walked home with steady, determined steps. She didn't know how yet, but she would turn this humiliation into strength. That money, meant to erase her, would become the seed of something greater. 22 years later, Iris Harris stood at the helm of her empire. The small pile of money she had clutched in despair had grown into Maslow Bistro, a 3-story culinary landmark in Seattle's most exclusive dining district. From a humble taco cart at the edge of town, she had built a culinary dynasty, brick by brick. Mom, we're out of the special sauce at table 6. Mason Harris called from the kitchen, pride and focus in his voice. At 42, Iris radiated authority. Her dark hair, streaked with silver, was pinned neatly in a bun, and her tailored black dress conveyed both elegance and command. I'll make more, she said, moving toward the kitchen with the quiet confidence of someone who had turned adversity into power. Mason, tall and strong like the father he never knew, moved with the precision of a seasoned chef. His talent drew Seattle's elite, who booked months in advance just to taste his creations. Mom, Mason said, wiping his hands on his apron, eyes bright, the food critic from the Seattle Chronicle is at table 15. She wants to speak with you. Iris kissed his forehead. You're a genius, my love. I learned from the best, he grinned. From the woman who turned $50,000 into an empire. He didn't know the truth of that seed money. To him, it was an inheritance from a distant relative. The story of his father remained Iris's secret alone. The bistro buzzed with energy. Business people, politicians, and celebrities mingled, laughter and clinking glasses filling the space. Framed photographs lined the walls, chronicling Iris's journey from taco cart to celebrated restaurateur, a testament to resilience, courage, and ambition. A young server approached, hesitant. Mrs. Harris, there's a couple at table 20 insisting on speaking with the owner. They seem important. Important? How so? The man said he's from the Lawson family. And the woman, she's rather arrogant. A chill ran down Iris's spine. Even after 22 years, those names carried weight. She straightened her posture and said firmly, Tell them I'll be right there. She crossed the dining room with measured steps, every motion radiating the power she had forged over 2 decades. When her gaze landed on table 20, the world seemed to pause. Samuel Lawson sat there, older now, streaks of gray at his temples, still exuding the aristocratic air that had once enthralled her. Beside him, Sabrina Miller radiated the same arrogance, though faint lines around her eyes betrayed years less kind than those Iris had faced. How can I help you? Iris asked, voice steady and controlled, every word weighted with authority. Samuel looked up, disbelief etched across his features. That fragile, tearful waitress from years ago was gone. In her place stood a commanding woman, every inch a leader, radiating power he could never have imagined. "Iris," he whispered. "For you, it's Mrs. Harris," she replied, icy and unyielding. "What do you want?" Sabrina's eyes swept over her with thinly veiled contempt. "So, you're the famous owner of this place?" "Yes," Iris said. "I own the most awarded restaurant in Seattle." "How fascinating," Sabrina smirked. A waitress turned businesswoman. Times really do change. At that moment, Mason stepped out carrying a signature dish. Samuel froze. The young man was his mirror image at 22. "Who is that?" he asked, voice cracking with disbelief. "My son," Iris said, pride shining in her eyes. "The chef responsible for this restaurant's success." "Your son." Samuel's gaze never left Mason. Sabrina sensed the tension immediately. "Samuel, let's go. This place isn't for us." "On the contrary," Iris said, pulling out a chair. "You came here for a reason." "Let's hear it." Sabrina straightened, sharp and precise. "We're interested in buying this property. We plan to build a shopping complex here." "This restaurant is not for sale," Iris replied firmly. Sabrina opened her designer handbag and pulled out a checkbook. "Everything has a price. I'll pay $200,000. That's more than this place is worth." Iris laughed, deep and genuine. "200,000? This restaurant makes that in a single month. Don't be ridiculous." Sabrina signed the check, her disdain obvious. A former waitress couldn't possibly have built something this valuable. "I could, and I did," Iris said, standing tall, eyes blazing. "Do you know what money I started with? The $50,000 your husband threw in my face 22 years ago." The room went silent. Samuel turned pale. Sabrina dropped the check. "That's right," Iris continued, voice steady and fierce. "Every brick of this restaurant was built with the money you used to humiliate me. Every achievement I've earned came from the pain you caused." "Iris, please," Samuel started. "It's too late for please," she cut him off. "You came here thinking you could humiliate me again, thinking you could buy me." Mason stepped closer, sensing the tension. "Mom, is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect, my love," Iris said, slipping an arm around his shoulders. "These are the Lawsons. Maybe you've heard of them." Mason's eyes widened as he met Samuel's. A strange recognition flickered across his face, the impossible familiarity of blood unspoken. "They're not welcome here," Iris declared. "Take your pathetic check and leave my restaurant." "We're not going anywhere," Sabrina snapped, standing so abruptly her chair toppled. "You may have fooled half the city with your little act of success, but I know exactly what you are." The dining room fell silent. Elite diners froze mid-bite. Waiters paused, forks suspended in midair. Every eye was on the confrontation, the moment a woman who had been underestimated for decades claimed her triumph in full view. "You're an opportunist," Sabrina hissed, finger stabbing the air at Iris. "You got pregnant on purpose just to cling to my family's fortune." "Mom, what is she talking about?" Mason asked, brow furrowed, disbelief written across his face. Iris took a deep breath. The moment she had dreaded and secretly longed for had arrived. "She's talking about your father, Mason," Iris said softly, brushing his shoulder protectively. "My father?" Mason's eyes snapped to Samuel, the resemblance undeniable, tall, green-eyed, the same sharp jawline. "I am..." Samuel's voice cracked, the weight of truth breaking through years of practiced composure. "I'm your biological father. But you abandoned him before he was even born," Iris cut in, stepping firmly between them. Her gaze was steel, her presence a shield. "You called me a gold digger. You threw money at me and told me to get rid of the bastard." The restaurant held its breath. Even the waiters froze, forks suspended in midair. Every diner became a witness to the reckoning. "You said that." Mason's voice trembled with anger and disbelief as he stared at Samuel. "Son, you don't understand the circumstances." "Don't call me son." Mason exploded, green eyes blazing. "A father doesn't abandon his child. A father doesn't humiliate the mother of his child. A father doesn't throw money in the face of the woman he claims to love." "Mason, please." Samuel reached out, but it was too late. "Don't bother. You had 22 years to be my father. 22 years to care if I was okay, if my mom needed help. Where were you when she worked 18-hour days just to give me a decent life? Your father had responsibilities, Sabrina tried, voice sharp but weak under the weight of the moment. Responsibilities. Iris let out a bitter laugh that cut through the tension like glass. She turned to the room, eyes blazing. His only responsibility was to his own ego. She stepped closer, voice rising, commanding the attention of every customer and staff member. Do you want to know how this restaurant started? With the money this man threw at me when he found out I was pregnant. He called me a gold digger, a foolish woman. He swore he'd never acknowledge my child as his heir. Whispers rippled through the dining room. The hum of silverware and quiet conversation fell silent. And do you know what happened? Iris thundered, each word deliberate. That money of humiliation became the foundation of my empire. Every cent he threw at me multiplied 1,000 times over. Iris, stop, Samuel pleaded, his voice nearly drowned by the murmuring diners. Why? Are you ashamed of the truth? She stepped closer, eyes burning into his. Does it hurt to let everyone see the man you really are? Mason stood, torn between fury and pride, watching his mother shine, every injustice of the past laid bare. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? He asked quietly, almost reverently. Because you didn't need to carry that pain, my love. You deserve to grow up free of abandonment, she said, cupping his face tenderly. But now you need to know your true inheritance isn't from the Lawson name. It comes from love, sacrifice, and dignity. You're right, Mason said, voice steady, filled with quiet strength. I don't need your recognition. I don't need your money. I don't need anything from you. Mason, you're my son, Samuel tried again, desperation creeping in. No, Mason said firmly, pointing to Iris. She is my parent. She raised me, taught me, and made me the man I am. You're nothing more than the donor who ran from his responsibility. Sabrina, red with fury at the public humiliation, made one last desperate attempt. You'll regret this. The Lawson family has the power to destroy this place. Try it, Iris said, calm and unshakable. I built this empire once. I can build it 1,000 times more, because I have something you'll never have. Dignity. Samuel and Sabrina stormed toward the door, pride shattered under the gaze of every customer in the room. Samuel turned for one last attempt. Iris, you're nothing, she cut him off coldly. You had your chance 22 years ago. Now it's too late. The moment they left, the dining room erupted in applause. Waiters smiled, diners cheered, and Mason threw his arms around his mother, holding her tight. I love you, Mom. And I'm proud to be your son, he whispered into her shoulder. And I am proud to have raised a true man, Iris murmured, tears streaming down her face. That night, Maslow Bistro was no longer just a restaurant. It had become a symbol, a testament that real strength doesn't come from money, status, or a name, but from the courage to transform pain into power, humiliation into dignity, and abandonment into unconditional love. Iris's triumph wasn't revenge. It was complete, unforgettable victory. You just heard this one from Stories by Sue. If it resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Thanks for watching.